Hello, everybody. It's Max with Crypto Talk Now. Binance entering into Japan. What could that mean for Jasmy? And how about this? Avita, do you know who they are? If so, you're probably aware of them from the past in regards to notebook PCs. So, with that said, we're going to jump into this outline that we have tonight and see why this all matters and especially why it should matter for you as a Jasmy holder. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So as you can see right here, this comes from the one, the only Icy Amphibian on crypto Twitter. Now he did report this a little while ago, but nonetheless, didn't get much coverage. And like you see right here, you see these gentlemen, right? Avita Technologies, Jasmy, and so on. And like it says, Jasmy's partnered with Hong Kong company Avita. They are making the first blockchain computers for businesses in China, Japan, India, and more. Binance Japan will launch in June 2023. Now, for somebody like myself, it would just make sense that even though Binance US delisted Jasmy, we know the reasons mainly for some of these things. But what about them listing Jasmy on the new Binance Japan? To me, that would simply make sense. How would that make sense? Well, for instance, you saw Hara go over to Hong Kong recently. And if anything, we reported on that. And I think Jasmy really did stand out in regards to some of those particular events, at that expo in Hong Kong. So without further ado, take a look at this. This is a guy who you're pretty familiar with.
Hong Kong wants to become the center of the global crypto industry, and authorities there have taken some really positive steps to make that happen. Just recently, they've told banks in Hong Kong that they mustn't make it too difficult for crypto companies to access their services, and Hong Kong authorities have also promised to issue guidelines for crypto exchanges within the next few weeks. Now, compare this to the United States, where the authorities have been trying to cut the crypto industry off from the banking sector, and clear crypto regulations are as far away as they have ever been. Now, it's going to be legal for retail investors to trade cryptocurrencies from the 1st of June in Hong Kong, and this could mark the start of a massive shift in the global crypto industry. So, mark your calendars.
All right. That was Guy, of course, from Coin Bureau. And, if you're not familiar with him, by all means, give him a follow. Great channel, at least in my opinion. But, what he said, this could mark a shift starting on June 1st. Again, I'll remind you, look what it says here. Binance Japan will launch in June 2023. Will Japan be part of just that shift? To me, it will be part of that shift, and Jasmy should be at the forefront of that. Now, of course, some people are going to say that's speculative, Max. We don't know that for sure. I get that. But keep in mind, if you have Hara representing Jasmy and they were a big hit in Hong Kong, wouldn't it make sense that they would see the opportunity for Jasmy with Binance Japan? Again, at the end of the day, that makes sense to me. Draw your own conclusion in regards to that. Now, a little bit more in which, we have for you guys tonight for this particular outline. Check out what is mentioned here. Blockchain PC, realization of secure data collection and its application by secure PC functions. Number 2, data selection considering privacy by Jasmy's original Edge AI engine. Number 3, platinum data aggregation by personal data locker. Now, as you can see right here on the far left, cooperation in development of devices and databases. Microsoft, Intel. We've covered QZit before. We've covered some of these other ones, not necessarily archaic and recursive, but like what it says here, alliance with companies having advanced data analysis, text, and decentralized text. And we covered, of course, the whole thing of Jasmy with Vio, Sony, and so on, collaboration with overseas devices, companies in Asia as well as Japan. That's why we mentioned Hong Kong. But, I will agree with this statement. Building a bridgehead for global expansion initially in Asia. You've already seen it. This thing is not just exclusive to Japan. Maybe it was last year with Jasmy Secure PC, and like it said on the box art and so on, um, exclusive to Japan. But we got reports recently that there's going to be English version of the Jasmy Secure PC. So to me, it looks like they are in fact taking this thing worldwide. Well, with that said, we got to get into this just a little bit more to find out what the heck is going on with this. So let's talk briefly about this whole concept, for instance, with Avita, and then I'll jump into a little bit more of what we have in regards to this whole outline for Binance Japan. It's all going to come together. Stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss it, especially towards the end. All right, so there's this right here, and I saw this from Hardware Zone. Avita notebooks to get security boosts with Jasmy joint venture. Now, this was originally, of course, reported back in November. You saw some of those key players, right? Two of these guys, obviously, from Jasmy, the other gentleman on the right from Avita. And, this was a great, partnership, to say the least. In fact, it was a joint venture. It says basically that Avita followed up by announcing the intention to include Jasmy's secure IoT technology and solutions into Avita's existing lineup of consumer notebooks. In fact, I'm going to blow this up just a little bit more for you guys to make it easier for you to see. But with that said, there's a lot to this, in my opinion. It's one thing to have a partnership and so on, but is it a strategic partnership for instance, where Jasmy's coming up here soon or going here soon with, the expansion to, for instance, Hong Kong, or, possibly having a listing with Binance Japan. Again, we're going to get into that. So, it mentions this secure IoT technology and solutions into Avita's existing lineup of consumer notebooks, as well as looking at the development of new businesses or business notebooks with secure PC devices and solution with device as a service solutions built in. Now look at this. Some of the possible Jasmy solutions to be included cover, well, obviously we're going to, know it's going to say data democracy, but one thing I also like what it mentions is Jasmy Secure PC, a solution for data breaching prevention and performance management by installing a free or paid agent program in computer terminals. The agent, if you didn't happen to know about this, supports log collection, encrypted drive management, and connection management with external devices. The manager utilizes the information obtained from the agent to remotely control devices via the agent. They've outlined this in the past, especially during the time of COVID, stating that you could do remote work from home. We talked about the Ghost Drive and some of our deep dives. You're more than welcome to look more into that. But it states notebooks including these solutions could be the start of a new line of business targeted notebooks for SOHOs and SMBs. And it shows you some of this of like how it looks, right? And these are like, for the most part, from what I've gathered, like reasonably priced notebooks. Kind of like, me as a teacher, we give our students or kids, if you will, the Chromebooks. Why do we give them Chromebooks? It's very inexpensive and it gets the job done, right? And it's not really slow, right? So the thing is this, what about for this particular region? Hong Kong, Japan, other regions in that, Asian sector? Yeah, this simply makes sense. It says, even as it retains and improves its consumer-facing technology, Avita will work with blockchain and IoT solutions provider, you read it right, Jasmy, to develop fintech and IoT solutions built around blockchain technology. Now, there's a lot more to this, or as they say in Transformers, more than it meets the eye, right? No pun intended. Even if you do a basic Google search, you could come to the conclusion that, yeah, Avita does stand out. And if anything, they are kind of reasonably priced, whether it's used or new, depending on, what kind of amount of RAM you want to get, or, what type of processing power you get the gist. But they're not some flash in the pan, um, computer company, to say the least. At least that's what I've gathered. A little bit more in regards to Avita. So what about like some of these other achievements real quick in regards to Jasmy? Well, I thought I would at least include this on our outline. It says congratulations to the Jasmy team and community for reaching 50,000 holders. When was this reported? May 6th, basically earlier today. By the time you guys see this video, it might very well be the next day. But that was a big milestone and it's worth pointing out. You can look more into it for yourself on Etherscan, or you go to CMC and just click on holders. Now, let's get into some of the big stuff, right? How about Binance in itself? Binance Japan, right? Well, here it is. Here's the big news in regards to that. So on May 5th, as on Friday, literally, well, let's face it, by the time you see this, it might be considered a couple days ago. But on Cinco de Mayo, Binance, like it says, will soon launch operations in Japan. Now, again, what could that mean for Jasmy? Well, it could mean a lot for Jasmy. You combine all these things that are happening with Jasmy as we speak. Just getting back from Hong Kong, this thing with Avita, everything is lined up that, like you saw a guy from Coin Bureau, he was mentioning that Hong Kong wants to be the industry leader, or I should say the place to be, have industry leaders come in and I guess you could say set a new wave or new standard for that region, or the global scale of the world. But I think Japan definitely wants to be part of that. And we've reported many times that you got to keep in mind that Japan is going to unban the foreign stablecoins. It's going to give access to the whole country for stablecoin pairings. Tether's USDT, Circle's USDC. And with that also said, we also saw the report of that Web3 white paper. So all of these things are literally like lined up like ducks as far as I'm concerned. Wouldn't the next big step be to recognize, hey, Binance, you own over 28% of all Jasmy, roughly, it could be 23 to 28%. Let's just lowball it, 23% of all Jasmy on your exchange. Now, is that Binance US? No, of course not. It's on regular Binance. But what about this whole thing of Binance Japan? If that country's unbanning the stable coins, then again, wouldn't that make sense to include a listing for Japan, especially since there's not going to be these harsh regulations like the United States? Again, some people might say it's a stretch, but I don't think it's too much of a stretch. So again, like it says, Binance Japan will offer services after acquiring Sakura Exchange Bitcoin. Binance is expected to provide services on the Japanese market in the coming months, the world's largest crypto exchange by trading volume. Binance took over regulated crypto exchange Sakura Exchange Bitcoin, which is SEBC, last November. The SEBC will cease operating on May 31st, which is literally at the end of this new month, giving way to a new platform provisionally named Binance Japan after June. Now, in regards to Japan, it states they are highly regulated environment for crypto exchanges. True. It requires segregation of customer and exchange assets. Exchange assets are to be kept in cold wallets, whereas customers' fiat to be looked after by a Japanese trust company or bank trust. To offer services locally, the company will have to register with the Financial Services Agency, FSA, Japan's regulatory watchdog. The registration is scheduled to go through in June, after which operations could begin. There's a little bit more in regards to this. So I know I'm reading a lot of it verbatim, but it's good stuff. Sakura Exchange, if you didn't know, currently supports 11 trading pairs. Again, back to why I was mentioning some of the pairing, right? At the end of the day, if you don't have trading pairs like Jasmy/USDT, Jasmy/USDC, well, how can people acquire the particular asset? There might be other ways, but traditionally speaking, those are the easiest ways to obtain the asset. Tokens listed on exchange platforms have to go through the vetting process by the Japan Virtual Currency Exchange Association before the SEBC services are terminated on May 31st. Customers will need to pull off their assets. Personal data will not be migrated to the new platform automatically, so the customers would be required to complete the KYC procedure from scratch. Now, there's two key takeaways I want everybody to have from this. Number one, this whole concept of, for instance, the vetting process, like it says right here, all right? This is great timing, currently speaking, for Jasmy. How do we know that? Look at where Jasmy currently sits, and I'll show you guys this just here in a brief bit. Now, with Jasmy, where they currently sit, we see, I believe that they're close to becoming part of the top 100. In fact, look right here. They have a rank of 105. Remember when it was a big deal that we're at 0.006? And that was, I said, I think this is going to be the new support level. Obviously it is. Now we're in the sevens. Are we at support for the sevens? No, not yet. I have been following some of this, right? But if anything, we could very well get some of that momentum that we need to break into the sevens. And then after that, we're only about 0.3 of a penny away from what? A big milestone. 1 penny. When a lot of people said, this is never going to happen. Yeah, right. I'll tell you this much. We get to a penny, boom, we are easily in the top 100. Now, could this be perfect timing for Binance Japan? Oh, yes. You better, bet your sweet aunt that it would be perfect timing, because keep in mind, we're still in, the beginning of May, and this could line up perfectly for part of that vetting process. You better believe exchanges, not only Binance, but many others, simply look at one key element, the top 100. They're going to look at that and they're going to say, you know what? Hey, guess what? This chart might not look all that great. Looks like a blatant rug pull. Yeah. But they're also going to look at other particular ones like what? XRP, some other particular ones, right? A lot of things that came out of the 2022 bear market and say to themselves, well, a lot of things look like a blatant rug pull that aren't rug pulls. Could Jasmy very well be one that has a good vetting and makes it to the list of Binance? To me, that would make sense. But again, I'm just a messenger. I don't know. I'm not saying that that's going to happen. All right. Now, if you're wondering, well, you have any more in regards to some of this, Max? Yes, I do. So I wanted to jump more into this, and I want to show you guys this right here. Oops, excuse me. And if you're wondering, where did this all first start? We'll jump back. So, a while back, this was reported on Coindesk.com and other news outlets. Binance Japan will start operations after June. Binance, the world's largest crypto exchange, acquired, like I mentioned earlier, Secure Exchange Bitcoin in November, right? And if anything, there's this video that kind of goes into this whole talk. We've shown you guys this before. It has this outline about specifically, the Japan white paper. And, if you haven't seen it before, I'm going to go ahead and actually play this, and I'll just state this. You're more than welcome to fast forward after this section, but I realize a lot of people didn't see this, so I thought I would go ahead and just share this again. So we're going to go ahead and play this, and then after this, we're going to get more into why this outline matters so much, in my opinion, as well as some other content creators' opinions. Some of these people you're pretty familiar with. Here we go.
There's a new white paper laying out Web3 recommendations for Japan's growing industry. And Emily, who's proposing this and what does it entail?
Hi, Christine. So yeah, this is a very lengthy and enthusiastic white paper that was issued from the ruling Liberal Democratic Party's Web3 project team, which is sort of a small but very vocal group of kind of crypto advocates among the Japanese political class. And it's just such a notable document because it really is trying to set Japan apart as a leader in kind of cryptocurrency regulation. And so this is a very long document, but I think we just need to talk first about the tone of the document. So initially it starts out with this statement, Japan is back again. That's what it says. So I think what they're referring to is this idea that, a few years ago, Japan was poised to be at the center of the Web3 and cryptocurrency world. Then it kind of fell off the map because it was sort of traumatized by some very high profile hacks. One was Mt. Gox and the second was CoinCheck. And so Japan kind of disappeared for a while, and it was really, really strict. It was really hard to list tokens. It was really hard to do anything as an exchange. But now they're kind of back with a vengeance, and they are basically want to position themselves as a leader in cryptocurrency regulation. So, this document just has a lot of recommendations for NFTs, for DAOs, for taxes, for just clarification. But I think, again, the main point here is the tone of it and how it really seems to portray cryptocurrency and blockchain as a benefit as opposed to primarily a risk.
And this is a huge contrast to what's going on in the United States, where the White House has been a lot more cautious about crypto. Maybe you can explain that juxtaposition there.
Yeah, I mean, cautious is a really diplomatic word. Our colleague Nick Day referred to it as scathing when he reported on the White House report, which I think is very accurate if you look at the White House report. I mean, this report, I really recommend everybody read it because it is indeed scathing. Just to pull out like a sentence from it, indeed, crypto assets to date do not appear to offer investments with any fundamental value, nor do they act as an effective alternative to fiat money, improve financial inclusion, or make payments more efficient. That's just like a small tidbit of that White House report. Like they're not feeling it. They're not into crypto, right? So this is just like a warning document. Now, Japan, of course, is very aware of the risks, associated with crypto, but the language is so different. Now, the Japanese report is not translated to English yet, as far as I'm aware, but just, our colleagues at CoinDesk Japan did interview the Secretary General of the party's Web3 project team, Shiozaki-san, and, there's basically language in this document that says things like, the cryptocurrency industry was once driven by early adopters, but now it will shift to mass adoption. I mean, Japan is envisioning this world in which, everybody's using crypto, everybody has wallets, everybody's using NFTs. I mean, it's just the two countries could not be more different in how they are looking at this issue.
What has given Japan the confidence to, become the world leader in crypto and blockchain technology, considering, they had those hacks you mentioned with Mt. Gox and everything, and we had this implosion with FTX and Terra Luna, especially that was impactful for those in South Korea.
Yeah, so basically what gave Japan the confidence is that they suffered a lot of hardship and they saw that they could survive it. And they saw that their regulatory framework was tough enough to withstand some really bad things happening, right? So, I mean, if you look at Mt. Gox, that was a very, very early disaster. And then CoinCheck, which was a large Japanese exchange at the time, was the largest hack in cryptocurrency history. So Japan took the time to kind of like get their regulations in place. And then with FTX Japan was one of the few places where users actually got their money back, in large part thanks to Japanese regulatory protections. For example, very basic one, Japan requires exchanges to segregate customer assets from, corporate assets, which, most other places don't have. So basically, I feel like where a lot of countries are sort of living in fear of the other shoe to drop or something terrible to happen, Japan has already had a bunch of terrible things happen. Now they see that they can withstand it. So some of that fear is gone. And now they've kind of moved on to the, this is an opportunity phase.
So are they confident in their regulatory structures and how do they envision themselves as a leader in the blockchain Web3 crypto space?
I think that they are fairly confident. I mean, I think, for example, as I mentioned, this one clause they have about separating customer and exchange assets, like this seems pretty obvious, but it's not like we have that in a lot of other places. Another thing that they put in after the hacks was basically 95% of assets need to be stored in cold wallets. So they have like a few provisions in place. But the other thing about Japan that's really important is that it's very clear and it's very straightforward. Japan has the FSA, the Financial Services Agency. They're in charge of crypto. It's very clear. It's not like the US where there's like all these different people, all these different agencies. We don't even know what's a security and what's a commodity. Japan is just way more clear. Now, I do want to note here that there is some criticism that Japan, in fact, is too strict and that it is not easy at all to operate an exchange in Japan. And I think that's valid. But I think that, again, at least they're working on it and at least they're trying to set, a more clear regulatory framework in place.
Yeah, really interesting to see the evolution of this. I remember when you first started talking about Japan, you mentioned how cautious they were. Institutions and retail were definitely very hesitant to enter the space. But now it seems that after this wave of crypto and the collapse that we've seen in the US, they are more confident and getting into the space. So it's really cool to see that.
Let's jump back into this outline. So in regards to SEBC, they currently speaking have supported about 11 trading pairs. Now, it states listing tokens on exchanges in Japan, of course, like we mentioned before, requires vetting by the Japan Virtual Currency Exchange Association. Japan has a high regulatory bar for crypto exchanges, probably maybe more than any other particular country. It requires segregation of customer and exchange assets, most exchange assets to be kept in cold wallets, like we mentioned before, in regards to, fiat to be kept by a Japanese trust company or a bank trust. Japan's financial authorities have previously issued a warning that Binance was operating in the country without permission. Now, of course, everything's a lot different now. We have the unbanning of these stable coins and so on. So keep in mind, if you got the news from what happened from earlier this year and where we're at now, there's a whole different narrative about things going here in the future, basically. Now, I want to jump over to this next particular part that we have, and it is in regards to what was mentioned in the past as far as Binance entering into Japan and so on. I want you to hear these guys' perspectives in regards to, where we were at in the past, where we're looking to go in the future with this concept of Binance Japan and so on. So we're going to jump into that right now.
Binance, big old crypto exchange, largest in the world by trading volume, is reportedly looking to return to Japan. Now, this is according to sources. A lot of no comments, a lot of hush hush here in this article. But according to sources, Binance wants back in, and this is something that we've been seeing increasingly over the last year or so, most notably with FTX and its acquisition of Liquid, establishing an FTX footprint in Japan. Now, Japan has been historically a bit cautious with crypto exchanges because if you remember, Mt. Gox was based in Japan, and that was a really bad exchange hack way back when. And I think that has informed Japanese regulators ever since to be a bit more cautious in terms of licensing crypto exchanges. So if Binance does indeed win a license to operate in Japan, that's potentially really big. But I wanted to talk about this and other things as it relates to the Japanese crypto market. And I am going to throw to Wendy. Wendy, what do you got?
I actually really think that I like Binance a lot more these days. I feel like during the bull market, they got attacked consistently. Like if you've read a lot of the headlines, they got attacked. Basically, people were fining them, people were fighting them, saying awful, terrible things. But Binance is still number one in volume. They're doing a lot of business, and it seems that they are really working hard these days to do things as legally and ethically as possible. Yes, there are some sketch things that did happen in the past, but I feel like that is with most crypto companies. But I like Binance. I like what they're doing, and I hope that they continue to have presence in every single country. Jen?
Yeah, Binance has really weathered many a storm, and it's been great to follow along their journey, through this show and reading the stories in the news. Japan's prime minister is looking for a solution, it said in the article, to the slowed growth in the country, and that comes with lax crypto and NFT taxes, and they want to attract crypto talent to the region. So I really think Binance is looking at this as an opportunity to get back into the region. It will be interesting though, Wendy, like you said, still the largest exchange by volume, but FTX and crypto.com have a foothold in Japan already. And so it will be interesting to see if they get the license and what their plan is to compete there. But I do think that Binance has done a really good job at weathering the storm. I think they've learned a lot of lessons when it comes to regulatory compliance across many different jurisdictions, and they're ready to apply what they learned. Will, what do you think?
We're just chilling Binance this morning, but it's probably for good reason. They've been doing some good work, to be honest, and expanding different jurisdictions. The biggest story, honestly, comes after July, their new policy of implementing zero fees for most trading pairs, things like 13 or 14 trading pairs. And that has increased their volumes compared to a lot of different exchanges. Kaiko, which is a great data aggregator out there, ran a nice newsletter 2 weeks ago about this, talking about how Binance's volumes have actually increased since July, while the rest of exchanges have decreased. And you expect going to bear market that everybody would decrease, but Binance is actually cleaning up because it has this no trading fee for most major pairs. So like if you want to buy Bitcoin with Tether, you don't have to pay a trading fee. People really care about that, so they're going to go to Binance. If Binance can keep operating on that sort of level, economies of scale and efficiency that others can't compete with, and then they crack open new markets like this, I really don't see how they don't start putting their entire footprint on the international market and kill off everyone else. I think it's important to note here that we have Binance trying to open up Japan right now. It has toeholds or even just like complete market operations in different countries like India, Malaysia, Thailand. At the same time, Coinbase is here in the United States fighting against the SEC with two hands behind his back, right? So we have very different market dynamics here if we're looking at exchanges, and it's going to be a tough fight, I think, for anyone who's US based predominantly. Zach, over to you.
Yeah, let's not forget, Japan is the world's third largest economy, right? So this is a big place in terms of GDP. And I think if the loosening of some restrictions on the exchange space specifically, that's potentially really interesting to watch unfold. Surprisingly, I mean, Japan has been kind of quiet in the crypto scene for the last, 5 years at least, right? You kind of hear about Singapore, you heard about Hong Kong, you hear about some of these emerging markets in the Far East, but often sort of Tokyo and Japan itself are left out of that conversation. So if some of these foundational things can get established with a bit more volume relative to what had been previously issued in terms of licensing, it'd be interesting to see if sort of Japan can really take the prize of being the preeminent crypto market in the Far East, because I think like that is somehow not yet materialized, probably just because regulators have been gun shy over some big time hacks in the past. But I don't know, that's maybe the bigger picture. Wendy, any last thoughts on this one before we change gears?
I'm just actually excited to see who's going to come out on top. And I think with Binance trying to operate back in Japan again, I think it's going to bring a lot of positive competition. I am somebody who really believes in positive competition for expanding economies and for creating better products. So I'm curious to see who's going to come out on top. I'm curious to see the tactic that they use to come out on top and directly compete with the other similar services offered there.
All right, welcome back. So with that said, think about what was mentioned here. I would say basically in regards to what Wendy O said at the end, it's going to create competition. Competition with who? Jasmy? No. Of course, with these exchanges, the way I look at it is this way. I'm a big fan personally of KuCoin. To me, it's really easy after you get used to using that platform, whether it's on your phone or whether you're using the web-based version, desktop version like I use. But with that said, you got to keep in mind, Binance US, Binance, internationally speaking, Europe and so on. Two different things for the most part. But what about Binance Japan? By having a Binance Japan, I think you're able to do just that. Compete with the likes of, for instance, like a KuCoin and so on. It's going to really, on top of that, add more volume coming in, and that's a big win as far as I'm concerned as a Jasmy holder. You want to see a little bit more of that exchange competition, if you will. I'm going to actually open up the frame one more time. I said it was in closing, but I do want to show you guys this. And, this, of course, is from CMC. And check this out for yourself. So this is the Jasmy coin markets. And you got to keep in mind, even on Binance, if you look at that pairing, remember what they mentioned in the that little quick interview from CoinDesk, right? The pairings. Why is that so significant in regards to pairings? Well, again, you can see it for yourself. You can track the volume just as much as the next guy. And like it shows right here, even, Binance by volume, I believe they rank, third right here, right? So they rank third. And again, technically speaking, that wouldn't be Binance US because there is no Binance US anymore when it comes to Jasmy. but they have a Binance Japan. Again, think about it for a moment. You know, some people I saw like on not crypto Twitter, but on Reddit said, "Oh, the whole thing of Binance Japan is not that great big of a deal. You know, this is not a continent we're talking about. This is just only an island country." Are you kidding? That is so naive. This country ranks number 3 in the world as far as GDP. Right? That's a big GDP power ranking country. You enable pairings like you see right here, so let's say for instance this gets approved and you have Binance Japan and they well vetted Jasmy and they put Jasmy on their platform. That will increase the volume of Jasmy something fierce. Now I'm going to go ahead and state this. We get a Binance Japan listing, and I believe basically by that time Jasmy, like I mentioned before, will be in the top 100. That will allow so much more volume. You'll come over here, the volume may be down like how it is right now, but those numbers technically will be up. You gotta keep in mind there's red days, there's green days, and so on. But that will provide a significant amount of volume that never was there before, right? If you are enabling an entire country, hence Japan, who, by the way, Tokyo still ranks, I believe, at least in the top 10, if I'm not mistaken. We're top 20 as far as being one of the world's largest cities. I mean, last I checked, even here in the United States, Japan is Tokyo, is the population of like New York and LA combined. I mean, it's an absolute beehive, and that doesn't count the rest of the country. So you give access to all these people with these pairings like Jasmy /USDT, Jasmy /USDC, some of these other particular pairings, and like what some of these guys mentioned, I don't know if it was necessarily Wendy O and so on, but yeah, Binance is famous for having virtually no fees on the trading pairs. Again, that incentivizes people. They're going to hear more about crypto coming up. How this Web3 white paper, they already have heard about Jasmy. They even see it in drone shows. Its label is the Bitcoin Japan. I'm just going to go ahead and say it right now. I don't usually do these types of things, but I'm going to lowball it, right, to be kind of conservative. I think us hitting that milestone of a penny, we're going to hit that penny. We're not that far from it right now. 0.3 of a penny as we speak. All right. We get to, for instance, this thing, Binance Japan. That's going to inject so much volume and so much access that it's just ridiculous, right? And then on top of that, I think we can eventually get to, I don't know if it's by the end of the summer. I know that's kind of a stretch, but I'm going to be a little bit conservative with this. I'm not going to say like 50 cents or anything like that. I honestly think we can hit, realistically speaking, don't get me wrong, I could be wrong on this. I think we get to 5 cents. We get Jasmy Japan. I think we get the 5 cents of Jasmy. Now, some people will say, well, Max, this isn't, the life-changing money. I get that. Keep in mind, crypto is not it shouldn't be a get-rich-quick scheme at all, right? You need to, if you have a good asset, right, in which I think Jasmy is a wonderful asset, right? How they built in a bear market, the partnerships, you keep seeing things, even now, right, going into the future. The point is this, they continue to impress, and this just simply makes sense. I think I've talked enough about it, but yeah, 5 cents of Jasmy, I think basically maybe shortly after this summer, or maybe even during this summer, just depends on market conditions and so on. I think, 5 cents is reasonable. Right after the listing of, for instance, or right at the time of approval of the vetting process, I think we'll be at a penny in that range anyway. So that's just the way I look at it. 5 cents of Jasmy is more than achievable. If you're not on par with me, that's okay too. We can agree to disagree. So that will conclude today's Jasmy coverage. Like, comment, subscribe if you haven't done so already. Let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think Binance Japan is going to be one of the biggest deals ever as far as Jasmy? At least I think so. So thanks again for watching. May you all have a blessed day. We'll see you on the next one.